But I guess let's start with the match reaction or the match review for the West Ham game. We have lost, obviously, 2-1 at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which makes it 4 losses and 1 draw in our last 5 games. With the form we're on, it's still quite surprising how close we are to like Man City and the top 4. But I guess let's start off with Ange Postecoglou's team selection yesterday, which I did think he got wrong. I felt like we had a good thing going on, in my opinion, with Giovanni and Kulusevski in that middle of the park. I thought they were both so creative working with each other. And I felt like this before the game, and I felt like it even more after the game. I didn't feel like there was a need to put Højbjerg in there. For me, he either should have gone Bissouma or Højbjerg. I don't think there was a need to play both of them together. And I felt like that was evident in the game in terms of the chance creation that we had from the middle of the park. We were out wide. We didn't really create much. I mean, Brennan Johnson and Kulusevski saw a lot of the ball, to be fair, especially in that first half. But Kulusevski kept cutting in on his left, and it was very frustrating. Brennan Johnson was getting in really good positions, but couldn't find a really good ball into the box. And I felt like if he would have kept Kulusevski in the middle and maybe put a Brian Hill out wide, I know Brian hasn't been doing too well, but I just felt like it's hard to say if it ain't broke, don't fix it, because we've been losing and not been getting results over the last couple of games. But I did feel like we were onto something good with those two in the middle.
Yeah, I don't completely disagree. I do think before the game, that's what we wanted to see personally, even though in the City game, that's how we started the game. And he was forced to change it because we were losing too many duels in the centre of the park. And he was forced to bring Højbjerg on kind of at half time to save the situation, and we looked very good in the second half. So, you know, Ange would argue if it ain't broken, don't fix it means staying with Højbjerg and putting Kulu back out wide. But personally, knowing how West Ham were always going to set up, knowing it was going to be a different kind of game than it was against Man City, I always felt like the more creative players we could fit into the team, the better, to try and create as many chances as possible, because West Ham are going to be very difficult to break down. They're going to make it very difficult to play through them, and you're going to need quality and width out wide. And I felt like whenever we did get the ball to the wide players, they can't. I mean, it's difficult to say what they should be doing, because they should. You could argue they should be providing good service into the box, but with only Sonny really to aim at, there's not really a good focal point in the box. So what they tried to do is cut inside and play through West Ham on the edge of the box and play a few small passes in and around the penalty area. What I would like to have seen them do is just take more shots from tight angles or good positions on the edge of the area to show their quality. And unfortunately, they weren't doing that. They were just more often than not passing it, not aimlessly, but passing it around with, as Ange would say, a lack of conviction. And then it led to usually a poor chance, or led to us losing possession, and then West Ham clearing the ball and it starting again. I would say we did a better job with it in the first half, creating stuff, because I did think we started well. Obviously, we took the lead with the corner. Romero scores, and then we did have opportunities-ish, half opportunities. Bissouma had one, which he skied over the bar. Lo Celso nearly forced an own goal. He had a shot on target as well, which was saved by Fabianski. We had a couple of half openings on the edge of the box. Son had one. Johnson had a couple of half openings on the left-hand side. But when it comes to real clear-cut opportunities where you're sitting there saying, "Oh, he's got to score there," very few.
Few and far between, absolutely. And I remember chatting to you like about 20 minutes in saying, look at this, we've had 86% possession, but we're not really creating that many clear-cut chances. And with that much possession, with that much dominance in the game, with that much of the ball, you've got to be doing more with it. You have to be doing more with it, especially with the run of results that we're on at the moment. You know what West Ham are going to do. They're going to try and make it really difficult for us, which they did. But it's not good enough in terms of what we did on the ball yesterday, even in the first half when we were heavily dominant. And we were so on top, but we had nothing. Yes, we had a goal from a corner. And like that just goes to show, like, as much as how dominant we were just limited to a goal from a corner. And that's like so uncharacteristic of Spurs this season, where we've been creating so many chances. Look at the start of that Villa game, how dominant we were and how many clear-cut chances we were creating in the first 20, 30 minutes of that game. This was nothing like that. We had so much possession but it seemed like we just didn't have that cutting edge. We didn't have that end product at all to really cut open that West Ham side.
Yeah, and I think that is proven by Moyes saying that at half-time, he felt like 1-0 was a great scoreline because they were under pressure for a lot of that half, but they kept the score low, and they knew that if they changed things up in the second half, they could have a real go at trying to get a result. And obviously that's what happened, unfortunately. But I would say we were better in the first half than we were in the second, only because of the amount of control we had. And I actually think, for all the defensive lapses, which we'll talk about in a minute, I actually think we defended pretty well throughout the game. I actually think we really restricted West Ham. West Ham have some good attacking players. And I thought, by and large, they were all very quiet throughout the game, to be honest, apart from the goals that they scored. I thought Romero was came back, and he was sorely missed. I think he showed what he's how much we've missed him. I thought he was playing really well. I thought Basuma was having a really good first half, but maybe not as good in the second half. Davis, first half, I thought he played really well and was really aggressive. Wasn't giving Kudus any time on the ball. Paquetá was very quiet. He had one kind of chance at the back post with a header, but apart from that, very much anonymous in the game. I thought Porro pretty much had him. So I actually think defensively, we'll talk about defensively, but I actually think we were pretty good defensively in terms of how we controlled West Ham and
dominated them. But yeah, it's about going forward. We just lacked a bit of incisiveness, and I think it was just about having the confidence just to have a go in certain positions instead of keep passing it. And it was almost how many times I was sitting there saying, just shoot, just have a shot, and they just kept passing. It was getting very frustrating. So
seemed like they just wanted to do the perfect goal every time.
Yeah,
just like working it into the box. No real variety in the play either. It was just like the same thing every time. It was either going to Kulusevski on the right, he was trying to cut in. I just don't understand for the life of me why he never uses his right foot. I understand sometimes, cutting it in, trying to work it in the box and have a bit of variety, but every single time, that's what Kulusevski was doing, cutting in on the left-hand side. He's got a good right foot. Why not use it from time to time? I'm not saying use it every time, but have a bit of variety in your play, Kulu. It was really frustrating with him on that right-hand side against West Ham. And Brennan Johnson as well. Like, Brennan was probably even more frustrating than Kulusevski yesterday, where he was getting in such good positions, but every time he got in that position, whether it was a shot or a cross, he was found wanting every single time. And both of these players frustrated me just so much yesterday.
Yeah, and Ange commented on that on his press conference today, saying, they're young players, but they've got to get up to speed a lot quicker in terms of what he wants from his wide players, because they didn't do enough when they were on the ball yesterday in terms of really taking the game to West Ham. And I think he's probably right. When it comes to the second half, the most frustrating thing about the second half is, yes, West Ham definitely came back into the game, no doubt about it. They changed up their way of playing. They pressed higher and made it more difficult for us to maybe build up, albeit I think a lot of the times we did still find solutions. But in a weird way, the goals that came both came probably in situations where we were actually gaining control back. In a weird way, in moments where they looked good, they actually didn't score from those moments. They scored in moments where we were maybe on top and looking creative.
Especially the second one.
The first one, obviously, they have a breakaway. Ball goes to Kudus. And, it doesn't take one ricochet. It takes two ricochets. And if you actually watch the replay, Bowen doesn't even know where the ball is when it falls to him. And luckily enough for him, he kind of sees it fall in front of him just in time before Vicario can get there, and makes it 1-1. Was against the run of play. That's a goal. I don't know who you can blame for that. Maybe you can say someone needs to get closer to Kudus. But the fact of the matter is that Kudus' shot had a lot of power on it. Romero can't really react. It just hits him. It then just hits. Then Davis is in close proximity, so it just hits him. And it falls perfectly into Bowen's path, and obviously he scores. So it's just a fluke, really. Like a one in a 1,000 kind of thing happens there, and bam, it's a goal. And then Ange makes some changes, brings on Skip, brings on Rishi, changes it up, puts Brennan back on the right, puts Sonny on the left, Rishi up top.
Kulu in the middle.
Although one thing he did say today, he was asked about the Lo Celso, because he took Lo Celso off.
and he said it wasn't. He was asked, was he tired or was it to do with tiredness? He said it was just tactical.
I'm sorry, that's a bad decision.
He said it wasn't down to tiredness or fatigue. He said he felt like we needed more legs, so he put Skip for Lo Celso.
That's a bad managerial move, in my opinion. And I've been here giving credit to Ange for all the subs that he's been making, identifying problems in games, and swaying it in our favour at times. But I felt like yesterday he did get it wrong in terms of lineup and substitutes that he made throughout the game. And Giovanni, for me, was our best midfielder. When he went off, he was our most creative outlet, and when he went off, I think that was evident for everyone to see. I mean, Ollie Skip is never going to give you the creativity that Giovanni gives you, unfortunately, and we're lacking options at the moment. That's just the reality of it, and unfortunately, we don't have the options on the bench that can come on and change games. And Skip, yeah, it worked when he brought him on against Man City. I thought he had a really good cameo. But we need different solutions when we're playing Man City than we're playing West Ham. And I felt like Giovanni should have stayed on that pitch yesterday.
100%. And we definitely lost a bit of that creative spark. I know Kulu went back in the centre, but I think it would have really done us the world of good if we had both of them in the centre rather than just one. And it really would have put more pressure on West Ham defensively. Obviously, look, I can understand how Ange was thinking, because there were periods where it seemed as though it was much easier for West Ham to get out and play through our press and get in on our defence. Although it didn't happen that often, it did happen a few times, which it pretty much didn't happen at all in the first half. So maybe he's feeling like we just needed more energy, and we needed. Yeah, maybe that's how he was feeling. But I just thought taking Lo Celso off just blunted us way too much. And all of a sudden, we struck. Well, I would say, yes, we struggled to create. But I actually think that was only after the second goal, because he makes the subs. And then in this, I think it was like about a 5 or 10 minute period between the sub and the second goal. And we were actually quite good in that period. We were looking like the subs was a good sub, because Rishi has that chance from a header. I remember Johnson was getting in behind a couple of times on the right-hand side. We had Son had a half chance on the edge of the box as well. We had a few moments actually where we were looking like the new energy was looking positive. But then West Ham get the second goal. Udogie with just a lazy pass back, not looking about who's where, not aware of his surroundings. Gifts West Ham a second goal. Ward-Prowse was able to just stick the ball off in the second attempt. Just talking about the goal though, I mean, it was just an absolute shit show from Udogie. I don't know what he's thinking. It's just terrible from him. I don't know why he's not aware where Bowen is. And even if he is, it's just a lazy pass, like in terms of the amount of power he puts on that pass, just nowhere near enough. I felt Vicario panicked a bit because he saw Bowen coming. I do think, watching it back, if he slides in with his feet, he would have got there and he could have cleared it. I think he did panic. It goes with his hands. But I understand it because he's just trying to sort out a mess brought to him by destiny. So, and then what I was not angry, but I was a bit frustrated watching it back as well. Romero and Davis as well, they kind of watch it happen, and maybe if they would have reacted quicker, they could have got there, because Ward-Prowse is allowed to hit the post and then fall back to him and then score.
That's the thing, right? Because Romero's looking at it, assuming that he's just going to hit it and finish it first time and it's going to be a goal. But you got to gamble, and you got to be expecting the mistake. You got to expect all eventualities, right? And you got to think about if he misses it, you got to be there to get that rebound. And Romero and Davis, but I think it was more Romero, to be fair, should have reacted quicker in that situation. And if he did react, it coming off the post, there was a chance, albeit a small chance, that he could have avoided that goal.
Yeah, so I don't like seeing my defenders stand around, and I didn't like it last week when Emerson was doing it. But I guess it's a bit different because that 1 minute we have the ball, and then within a few milliseconds, all of a sudden they're on goal, and it's hard to react to. I don't want to completely blame them, but I would like, for those situations, I like my defenders to react a bit quicker.
There's no two ways that goal is all on Udogie. It was terrible, absolutely terrible play for Destiny Udogie, which is unfortunate as well, because I thought he was having a good game up until that point, especially in the first half. I thought he was playing well, but you cannot do that. You cannot do that in any stage of the game, no matter what the scoreline is. It really is terrible from Destiny.
And I've sung his praises massively all season, to be honest. And you can't do that at home to West Ham when it's 1-1, we're on top, and he literally just chucked the game away at that point.
Just give them something to
He's
hang
literally
on
just chucked
to.
the game away. After that, we had nothing, pretty much.
I think we would have won the game, in my opinion, if he doesn't
We
do
were
that.
on top. We were on top.
I think we would have won the game. I reckon we would have got the goal. It seemed to sap a bit of energy out of us
Massively,
as well, that
massively, because we were on top, we were in the ascendancy, we were out there searching for the goal. Then out of nothing, just a terrible pass from Udogie. That's it, 2-1 to West Ham, and it's game over pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, and I felt like in the last 20 minutes after the goal, we huffed and puffed. We didn't really do much. I can't remember too many occasions where Fabianski was tested. I think Porro forced a save out of him, but I think that might have even been before the goal, to be honest. I don't remember too many. Just in those last 20 minutes, we tried to swing the ball in. We brought Valise on. We brought Hill on. Sarr on. Sarr looked all right, to be fair. He had a couple of opportunities, a couple of shots. He looked a bit energetic, but
there was that one curling one that I thought it was actually going to go in for a second.
Yeah, no, it didn't quite happen. Hill and Valise struggled to really impact the game. We didn't really get service into them. And we just looked devoid of ideas. And to be fair, I think the team we ended with must have been a very, very young team. I think because Son went off as well. I think the front four we ended up for was Hill, Richarlison, Valise, and Kulusevski, with Sarr and Skip anchoring as well. So obviously players who had never really played together before, a lot of them. And we kind of ran out of ideas, and also giving West Ham something to hang on to kind of allowed them to sit in that deep block again and frustrate us. I felt like they committed more risk in that second half. And yes, that might have got them back in the game, but also it could have lent to us capitalising. But what happened was we gave them 2 sloppy goals and ended up then taking advantage.
It was very frustrating as well because I felt Son, especially in the first half, was making all these brilliant runs, finding space in behind and stuff like that, but no one was finding him. We just kept going out wide, doing the same thing every time, like I said with Brennan Johnson and Kulusevski before, and you could literally see Son was making these lovely runs time and time again, and just nobody was looking for him and nobody found him, which was very frustrating. But we've got to talk about that Sonny injury. He was hobbling for quite a bit, ended up going off about 10 minutes later. I don't know why it took them so long to take him off. Maybe they wanted him just to try and shake it off and carry on, but it was a pivotal moment for us in the game. He looked in massive discomfort after the game, Heung-min Son. Apparently he wasn't even walking, and Ange says he was very sore and there's no real injury update on him as of yet. If he is injured for any prolonged amount of time, I mean, what the hell do we do then?
Yeah, I mean, we're in big trouble because it feels like without his cutting edge, I don't see where the goals come from at the moment. Rishi, obviously he's back and he's obviously going to have to fill in and hopefully he's, maybe with the surgery he's had and maybe he's going to come back better than he was beforehand and maybe he can really step up for us. But it's definitely worrying, especially him being our captain as well. I've seen clips as well going around social media yesterday about with him trying, encouraging everyone and trying to lift everyone. Without that presence, it's going to be difficult, very difficult. It feels like if only the chance falls to him, that's the only way we're scoring at the moment. We're very much struggling to be clinical and have that cutting edge in the final third. And let's just hope he's okay. Look, he said he's okay after the game, but he said, I'm okay. I felt a bit of pain, but I feel okay. Let's see. It would seem like but he did seem to be in a lot of pain or sitting on the sidelines yesterday. So maybe he's playing it down, and maybe he's in more pain than he's letting on. But it's very concerning about Heung-min Son.
Yeah, it is concerning. I would say like the only players for me that came out of that game in a good light is Pedro Porro, once again. Most consistent performer. I've said it time and time again. I think he's our player of the season so far. Another assist to his catalogue yesterday with the corner. And I just thought throughout he defended really well. He was getting forward. He was looking dangerous. Pedro Porro was probably our best player. Well, definitely our best player on the day yesterday. Cuti Romero, was good to see him back in the defence. I thought he had a really good game, specifically in the first half. Ben Davis, I think he's carried on his okay form since Van der Ven's been out injured. But apart from that, I don't think anyone had a particularly good game yesterday.
I don't think, in terms of performance-wise, I don't think anyone was terrible. in the game either.
I thought Højbjerg was really poor.
Højbjerg was probably the weakest one because he just frustrated me every time. He just doesn't have it in him to play that quick passing, make quick decisions, accurate passes. When he's given time and space and he has to spray a ball out wide, a long ball and things like that, he can do it. But when he's in tight, congested areas and he's asked to play quick, one-touch football, he's invariably he's more often than not he's not able to do it, and it's very frustrating.
What was the need? I mean, I guess the need was to take Brian Hill out of the team. That was a need to play Højbjerg and Basuma together. Was that Ange's thinking?
You could argue Højbjerg deserved, as you also argued, Højbjerg deserved to start.
Yeah, but I was saying either play one of Basuma or Højbjerg. Don't play both in that midfield.
Yeah, but you'd argue that Højbjerg deserved to play. He deserved to start based on his performances.
Yeah, but what I was saying coming into the game, play him instead of Basuma, not them two together.
That's not.
But I know what you're saying, that he deserved to play on his merit of performance. But that means Basuma didn't deserve to play on the merit of his previous performances. I'm just saying,
maybe Ange felt like he deserved to start, so he put him in and gave him an opportunity.
Yeah, but number 8. I understand that, but he's not. You can't. You play him in the number 6, Højbjerg. He's not a number 8, in my opinion. We have seen him do it for Denmark. Yes, we've seen it for doing for Spurs time and a few times here and there. But with Basuma and Højbjerg in that midfield together, there's not enough creativity there. We saw that yesterday. I would have said that before the game if you asked me. And coming into the game, you either play Højbjerg in the 6 or Basuma in the 6. There was no need to play both of them in the same midfield.
Yeah, I agree with that. But obviously, based off the second half against City, Ange felt like that was a better dynamic to go with in this game.
Completely different game, though.
I agree with you, and I think it was the wrong decision. No, obviously, there's no guarantee if we go the other way, we win. But I would have liked to have seen a more attacking lineup in going into it. But he went with that lineup, and to be fair, we had control over the game, but we just didn't have the cutting edge in the final third. Who's to say if we changed it up, maybe we would have a bit more creativity, but maybe we would give up more chances. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe West Ham would have won 2-1 or 3-2 because of the chances we give up. I don't know how it would have gone. So I'm not going to sit here and say he definitely got it wrong because he made that decision. But I'm just saying we called for it before the game, and I would have liked to have seen 2 creative players in the centre just to force the issue against West Ham more.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, you can't predict the future. You don't know what's going to happen with each individual lineup, but surely you back yourself with more creativity in that midfield to cut West Ham open more than we did yesterday. And yesterday we were just limited to getting it wide, and both wide players not doing good enough. And I could keep saying they just frustrated me so much. I had nightmares of Kulusevski and Brendan Johnson last night. That's how bad they were. And there was just no excuse whatsoever after the form that we've been on. 4 losses, 1 draw, Romero back in the side, to lose that game yesterday on a West Ham team where their fans want David Moyes out. They ain't happy with the way they're playing whatsoever. Yeah, they're getting a few results here and there, but there was not one excuse to lose that game yesterday. Not one. And it's just a massive kick in the teeth to all of us fans, to go and lose that game, especially in a massive London derby like that, where everyone was just so confident going into it as well. And it's just the same story over and over again with Spurs. We go into a game so confident and we have it chucked in our face every single time.
Yeah, well,
and you go into a game like Man City where nobody gives us hope and then we take a point.
That's Spurs for you.
It's ridiculous. That is like the epitome of Spursy, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's frustrating. I feel the frustration as well. But at the end of the day, we're still very early on in what Ange wants to do. And we just got to ride with it at the moment. And it's frustrating. We have results like this. We make mistakes like we did yesterday. Like the goals we conceded, there's just nothing Ange can do about those goals. There's just nothing we can say. But what he can do is, get us creating more chances. And unfortunately, we weren't able to do that yesterday. And that's ultimately what cost us. But I think, thankfully, we're still in a good position in the league. We're still 5th. After 5 games out of win, we're still 5th, which is incredible. So still plenty to fight for. No, nothing's over by any stretch.
Yeah, it's just very frustrating in terms of the options that we have to change games from benches with the massive injury crisis that we're in.
Or lack of, should we say.
Lack of. I mean, Ange is basically trying to manage this team with his hands tied behind his back at the moment. It's an impossible task, really.
City missed 1 player and they lose 4 games without him, Rodri.
Yeah.
And everyone says that as an excuse for City to lose those games. Yet Spurs miss all these first team players who were so crucial to how we were playing in the first 10 games, and as well crucial for our process, and we're still very early on the process, and yet, we're not given the same kind of, they're not given the same excuses, but it's just what you've got to live with. My point is, it shows how injuries can really affect them, especially when your squad is as thin as ours. So it's going to be difficult. We're going to have to find solutions, and you're still learning about a lot of these players as well. You got to remember, we talk about players like Lo Celso and Hill and a lot of these players, and even like Johnson, like they've only made a handful of starts even this season, like not even in this season. They're still finding their feet this season. They're not even, just because they played a few good games, they're also going to play a few bad games. It's going to happen. So it is what it is. I'm frustrated, but I'm not going to start getting on anyone's back anytime soon until I start getting overly concerned.
Look, anyone that's complaining about Ange Postecoglou right now, he's a manager. You're not going to get it right every single game, essentially. And I think Ange deserves our backing. I think we've seen enough from Ange of what he can provide in these first 15, 16 games of the season, even in some of the games that we've lost. I think we've seen enough that he deserves our backing right till the very end. So I don't want to hear anything about Ange Postecoglou. I want to hear only people backing him, to be honest. He keeps saying, and he said it even when we were on the winning path, that we're at the infancy of what we're trying to do. You look at any other team who have been at the early stages, and not just at the early stages. You've lost your best player of all time in Harry Kane. You've gone through an unprecedented, pretty much injury crisis as well, where everyone that was impressing in the early stages of the season has been injured for a prolonged amount of time. So we've got to be patient. We've got no other choice but to be patient with what we're trying to do. I still think that we're on a good path here. And I still see massive light at the end of the tunnel. It's just going to be hard to get to that light at the end of the tunnel with all these injuries that we've got at the moment. So people need to stay on board, and people need to stay positive of what's going to come in the future, albeit how hard it's going to be to get there.
Yeah, and another manager as well after that game that we had yesterday would have come out. Maybe even a Mourinho or a Conte after that game would have come out and said, "Oh, we played well and we just got unlucky, individual errors, all that kind of stuff." But it's not what Ange was saying yesterday. He didn't make any excuses about the result or what happened. He was saying everyone says we played good football, but for me, if you don't put away your chances, that's not good football. I want to see more conviction from this team. I want to see us having more of a go in that final third rather than just waiting for the ball to go. It's almost as if we thought the ball would go in by itself, he said, instead of trying to put it in ourselves. And I think he's absolutely spot on. So yeah. If anyone's angry, he seems angry. So
I've never seen him that angry, actually. The most angry he's been at Spurs as Spurs manager, to be honest, and rightly so.
Right. So he's not like he doesn't realise there's a problem. He doesn't. It's not like he came out and said, "Oh, we were unlucky, we played well, we were the better team," all that kind of stuff. He wasn't using all these platitudes. He was, I think he was honest, and he was saying what he felt needed to change. And hopefully the players really take that on board.
Yeah, it's hard to think otherwise. I was thinking about this last night. I'm looking at all the games that we've dropped points in this season. When you're looking at it, right, Chelsea, I don't think we could have done much with 9 men. I'd put that one to the side. But you look at Wolves, Man City, and last night, West Ham and Villa. I genuinely believe if we have Harry Kane, we win all those games. I genuinely believe that. And it goes to show, right? You can't lose your best player of all time, £100 million player, best player in the world right now, and not feel the effects. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're seeing right now.
100%, we definitely are.
So